Unfortunately, after a few months, my tumor got really, 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 really big. I think it was 26 centimeters. It was pushing on my organs. It moved my heart. I couldn't breathe. I was in so much pain. Back in 2018, I noticed a mole on my face, kind of like where my neck and my face meet, and it was new. And thank God I knew that this is a symptom of melanoma. Like there's something concerning about that, like for something like a mole to just suddenly pop up. So I made arrangements with the dermatologist. I made an appointment, and I was scheduled right away. And to be honest, I wasn't thinking melanoma. I was just thinking like something's wrong, like just get it checked out. Um, but when he gave me the results a few days later, I'll never forget that day. I was at work. It was right in the morning as I was heading into work. Like I think I was on the elevator or something. And the doctor had told me I have melanoma. And like, I just felt like my world stopped. And I was really emotional. I actually left work. I kind of disappeared into a conference room for about 30 minutes. I called my parents and let them know. I was just really shaking, really emotional because I, didn't know exactly what that meant. He told me I needed to call a surgeon, like he had a surgeon in mind. I had to get surgery, I had to get this removed. And I also would need plastic surgery because it's on the face and the skin's different here on the neck and on the face than the rest of the body. So, in order for it not to look so bad, you'd need some plastic surgery. So, I actually did two surgeries. They removed the mole and they went in and dug whatever else was lingering. And then they did the plastic surgery. He just had told me continue to go to the dermatologist every 6 months from now on to get skin checks. The 6 month skin checks are just basically they look throughout your whole body. They look at your scalp, they look at your skin, just make sure there's no new changes. They also ask you to keep an eye on things if you see anything, your own body, to let them know if there's any changes. I actually never thought I'd get it again. I was always safe in the sun, um, wore SPF and, you know, opted for the shade. I just never thought it would come back. It was stage 1 when I was diagnosed. So my doctors never even mentioned a possibility of it coming back because usually stage 1A or 1B, they don't come back. I mean, they can, and I'm finding out more and more people that it's coming back. But I was never warned at that time. They're just like, oh, just get the skin checks and be careful. Not as much time in the sun, all that kind of thing. The weird thing is, for my melanoma specifically, I mine wasn't caused from the sun. It was caused from tanning beds. I was an active tanner from like 16 to 24 years old, unfortunately. And because of that, I can almost guarantee it's from that. Unfortunately, the damage was done to the DNA. And also, I believe that any type of cancer, if you are living a toxic lifestyle, it can also contribute to cancer. Like in my young 20s leading up to the cancer, I was, drinking a lot, going out with friends, going out to eat. Like it's not healthy. Like nothing's more healthy than cooking with food that is good. So it was like seed oils and unhealthy food and drinking and lifestyle and stress, chronic stress. A lot of things I think contributed to my second diagnosis. It was around Christmas time and I had like flu-like symptoms. I was coughing, I had some wheezing, some chest pain. Um, yeah, just some flu or cold-like symptoms. And then at night, I was having trouble sleeping because I could not get in a comfortable position. The middle of my back on the left side hurt. So to roll around on my left side, my right side, my back, I could not get comfortable. I was in pain. and it continued to get worse. And I said, you know what? If it gets worse, if it doesn't go away by tomorrow, I'm going to go to the doctor. So I did that because it got worse and it was really painful. Went to actually a clinic. I didn't go to the doctor. I just went to like a clinic, wanted to get in very quickly, and they did an X-ray. And I was just hysterical when I found out the results. I had a left collapsed lung. I didn't even know that was possible. I was like, what? Like, that's why I'm experiencing pain, because my left lung has collapsed. And they're like, you need to go to the ER now. This is an emergency. They're like, go home, pack a bag. You're going to stay a couple days. And I was just like so emotional because I was like, how did this happen? Like I didn't understand. Went to the hospital, and as you can imagine, they run a lot of tests. They don't know what's going on. In the ER, got admitted to the hospital and stayed, I think, 2 or 3 nights. And they come in and they ask tons of questions. And when I mentioned my melanoma, which I didn't even think at the time this could even be melanoma, I had no idea. I didn't even think cancer. I had no idea what to expect. But when I mentioned my first diagnosis, they said, um, can you please get the results from, or get the information from your previous doctor and surgeons? We want to see it. We want to compare. Um, and also they did, I'm trying to think, it's called a pleural effusion, where they kind of draw the excess blood from your lung. And that was pretty painful. It was just a crazy time. They took over a liter of blood from my back, from the area. They were able to compare that blood, like the cells, the cancer cells, I guess, with, the previous diagnosis. And I think they were the same. I think that's how they determined that, yeah, this is melanoma. I thought lung cancer because it was in my lung, all the situation. And then they did a CT scan. That's when they saw I had two small tumors, like 3 and 5 centimeters, I believe, around that size, side by side at the bottom of my left lung. So that's when I think I realized, wait, that could be cancer. So they did a CT scan. I was just shocked. I was really shocked. I had this mindset and attitude is like, let's get the surgery and get this over with. I was pretty honestly, I was pretty optimistic about it. I didn't realize it was going to be such a long battle that it was. I battled it pretty hard for a year and a half before things got back to normal. I thought it'd be a few months. It's like, what was I thinking? But I just tried to be as positive as I could be. Like, I think I just went into this mode of like, I got to get through this. And, I'm just going to keep a positive mindset, even if it's unrealistic at the time. To find my original care team, I wanted to go to where my sister worked. It's a really good hospital, really good doctors. So I just went there. After I got the news that from the x-ray that said you need to go to the ER, I went straight to that hospital. It was a really, really good care team. The doctors were amazing. Like, I couldn't ask for better, to be honest. But even my oncologist said, it doesn't hurt to get a second opinion. He was very supportive. So I actually, in August of 2023, flew down to Tampa, Florida, and there's a hospital called Momment, and they actually specialize in melanoma. So I made an appointment with a doctor there, and we got a second opinion. It was very thorough, but basically, she kind of went through the protocol. Like, if this works, then we do this, and if this doesn't work, we do that. She showed me like a kind of a map of how it works. Like, if this treatment fails, you do this treatment. And it was like pretty much in line with what my oncologist had told me. So we knew we were on the right track. And I chose to do Moffitt since it was more um, melanoma specific. I feel like they had more knowledge on the specific cancer that I had. I did a lot of research on my own. I joined some cancer support groups on Facebook that were melanoma specific to see what everybody's doing, to get feedback and understanding. But the doctor at Moffitt told me that the first line of treatment was immunotherapy, and I tried that. So that was the first thing I did. But unfortunately, after a few months, my tumor got really, 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 really big. I think it was 26 centimeters. It was pushing on my organs. It moved my heart. I couldn't breathe. I was in so much pain. This was in June of 2023. And I was hospitalized for 2.5 weeks. And at the end of these 2.5 weeks, I was in the ICU. It was really bad. They put me on a medication. They have targeted chemotherapy treatments, which are pills you take, not the infusion. They are pills, and they're really effective for people that have melanoma, but you have to have a certain genetic mutation. And I was BRAF positive or BRAF positive. So because of that, I could take this pill. There's another targeted therapy. It's a different drug that I'm on now that has that works for a lot of people, but for me, I think it was because at the time I was just so sick and I was doing immunotherapy too. I ended up with high fevers. I even ended up with hypothermia somehow, and I was hospitalized twice during that, and my doctor said no more, like your body can't handle this. The immunotherapy ended up not working because my tumor continued to grow and grow to the point where I was hospitalized again. Um, since I was BRAF positive, I was able to take targeted chemotherapy drugs, the pills. So one did not work so well, but I took it during immunotherapy. But the other that I was put on when I was hospitalized because my tumor had gotten so big, this one was like a miracle drug, really. Within a couple days, I not only felt a lot better and felt relief, but my family and everybody around me was like, wow, you look a lot better. So it was kind of crazy how fast this one works. But I did a lot of research on this, and it works quick for a lot of people, and it helps shrink the tumor down to a small size. Some people it can completely resolve the tumors, they're completely gone, which is amazing. But for me, we decided that once it got to a certain point where it was small enough to do surgery, that we would do surgery. Because the only downfall with this chemotherapy, targeted chemotherapy drug, is that it doesn't, for a lot of people, last very long, unlike immunotherapy that kind of like builds your immune system and helps you fight it for a long period. It did the job. It got my tumor down to a small enough size that we were able to do surgery in January of 2024, which was amazing. However, I've remained on these drugs, but I had one reoccurrence 6 months later. And then another 6 months later, we discovered that where I had surgery, they had probably missed some because in the same area, we had a small spot. And for both of these, my doctor said, stay on the pills, keep going, because most likely it's still attacking, some harmful cancer cells. Maybe not all of them, but some of them. So he said, keep on the pills. And then we decided to do radiation for both situations. So I did radiation twice to target these spots. When I started the targeted chemo drugs, I had a lot of problems the first couple months. I was getting sick almost every night. I wasn't really able to keep my food down. I lost some hair. I was really tired. Um, so yeah, it was really challenging at first. But as time has gone on, it's been, wow, 2 years since I've been on them. Um, and I don't feel too bad. I have some fatigue that is really debilitating at times, and some body aches. Like sometimes your joints will ache. It's also another symptom of immunotherapy, but I'll have pain in my bones, that comes and goes from time to time, but it's pretty rare. Um, but yeah, I think it was really hard also because, at the time that I was diagnosed, I was 34. And on my mind, I was building a business. I was 1 year into my online business. Things were looking up. I just got engaged on Christmas that year and was wanting to plan a wedding, was wanting to get pregnant, all these things. But after cancer diagnosis and being on all these drugs and continuing the drugs, we kind of decided, that having kids probably was not an option, which was difficult. My last radiation was in January of this year. So, January of this year, my doctor had mentioned to me, hey, you've done radiation twice and it works and it's been good for you. However, this is not a treatment. Like, this is not like if this keeps reoccurring and popping up, we need something else. You can't radiate your whole body. He's very against that. And he said it's just not a long term solution. So, if it were to come back, um, again, we would wait till the tumor grew big enough, and there's something called TILs, and they were a clinical trial when I got diagnosed, but now they're FDA approved, and they're not available in every state. There's specific states that you would have to go to get the treatment, but basically it's pretty in depth. But you have to do some chemo, you lose all your hair, you go through some infusions. They basically harvest your cancer cells, somehow, and then they inject you with something that helps fight these cancer cells and kill them. So it's worked for some people. But when he said that, I remember being really, really upset and thinking, oh my gosh, why do you think it's going to come back? Like, it's not going to come back. Like, there's no way. I just wanted to stay so positive. So to hear that he was suggesting something so scary, like, was really frightening. Like, it really was. Um, so I had to deal with that in my own way. But that would be, what would happen next if it were to reoccur. It's impacted me a lot, as you can imagine. So it's really motivated me to live my best life, to not waste any moments doing something I don't want to do, eating really healthy, making some lifestyle changes that just suit me better. Um, I also have a really healthy community of friends and family, which means a lot. So I feel really good about things now. Um, I just look at life like, do what you want, like, live your best life, you know, just enjoy. I was really, like, not really opening up when I was really sick because I don't know, I just kept it to myself. But now I really am at that point where I want to share with people what's worked for me, how I can help better support them if they have cancer. So I'm in some groups to support other people that are going through the same thing. I'm also connected with a lot of women and men that have had melanoma or have melanoma, and we communicate and we share information. And, it's like really motivating and inspiring. and I want to be part of something bigger that like helps other people get through this, because it's not easy at all. Like, it's a really tough journey, and for some it can be even tougher. So we want to make that process easier for them. Get skin checks, know the ABCs of melanoma, and just be really safe in the sun. Avoid the sun if you can. Opt for the shade. Definitely no tanning meds. It's just not worth it, not worth the risk. Just be yourself. When I was young, I was influenced, like a lot of people are as teenagers, to what's in fashion. And what was in fashion was to be tan. Everybody idolized tanning. And I'm not tan at all. I've got freckles and fair skin. So for me to be in tanning beds or to try to be tan when I'm just not, is not being authentic. So I just ask people to love themselves and accept themselves as who they are. If you're not tan, don't be tan. Just really accept yourself, because I didn't for a long time until now.